25th.
Maryland Day.
Okay, so the date on the live stream is wrong. Today's the 25th, and this is Bible Art Journaling class for the 25th of March. So if you are watching at home, welcome, and thank you all for being here. I am super excited, super excited to share what I have with you today. And the reason is we're going to start this a little bit different than we have started every other class. And we're going to start with the art, some of it, a piece of it. So I have not handed out any of the readings that we're going to do tonight yet, because we're going to do this part first. We're going to set it aside, and then we're going to do that part. And then we're going to come back to our art. So first, I am going to open us in prayer. Lord, we thank you for being here, for bringing us together, for getting us all here safely. Please be with those who couldn't be here tonight, those who are visiting family and have prior obligations and traveling. We ask that you be with all of us, be in our midst. We invite you here, Lord, to converse with us and show us what it is you have for us to learn this evening. Help us to let go a little and enjoy the process and understand that we are all a work in progress, that you're never done with us, and likewise, we're never done with you. We ask that you just bless this time together and be in our midst. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Okay.
Much less finish you.
All right, so the first thing I want you to do is I want you to open your journals and read your intentions. Very first page of your journal should have your intentions. If you don't have them written there, think about what you want to get out of tonight's class. Think about what you want to get out of attendance coming to this class in general. And what do you want from God? What are you looking for? So remembering our intentions, we're going to move very quickly into the activity that we're going to do, because we're going to start with praying in color today, with a different, not acrylic paint. We're going to use watercolor paint. So in front of you have a couple of plates, and the reason, I put a plate between you guys to share with the person across from you, because these are very strong watercolors. They're liquid watercolors. So the very first thing I want you to do, there are various different colors on each of the tables. There should be like a little color swatch of, if you want to just put a few drops on the plate between you, you guys can share them, and as you need more, just add more, a few more drops. So we're going to go ahead and put that on our plate. To get these ones open, you have to push down. It's like a child lock, medicine lock. So we're just going to put a few drops.
Yeah, you press it down. It's not working for me.
I hate those things. I asked the pharmacy not to put them on my mouth.
Did you get it?
Yes, ma'am. Just put a few drops, you said.
Yeah, that's
Just a few drops. These are very potent, and we want,
So it's loose.
what we're looking for, because of what we're going to do later, we want our, what we're doing now to be a little lighter. Well, this one's not.
I don't know what's wrong with this one. I'll let John deal with it.
I know.
Hey, John, you can deal with that. The top is loose, but it can't get it off.
See, that one was loose, but it wouldn't come off.
Because you gotta push it down to really grab it.
See?
Come on, strong man. No,
Yeah, we take care of it.
here, pass over here. Oh,
No, it's purple. I think one's red.
Got
and
different. They have different ones than we do.
Oh, okay, that's going to go between you guys.
You want yellow?
It might help if you, oh, I guess we don't have.
That's the one I have on there.
So we can't set them in front of water.
What was that? What was the color?
You'll
I
see
gave
them
you?
once
Is it
once
blue?
you add water. We start.
What is that?
Blue.
I'm putting 1 jar of water between you guys.
Okay. Perfect. You got it.
I don't know, let's ask the sister.
You guys get blue, I didn't screw it on there.
Right.
This is like.
Very different.
They were all gone.
It looks like brown almost, doesn't it?
But everybody do the yellow.
But, yeah.
That's the one that wouldn't open. Yellow.
Stick it back up in
Oh, no,
there.
you have yellow.
That's great.
You already have
A
it.
little stringy.
Honey, you already have it.
Okay.
Yellow.
I think you got the yellow.
All right, so the next thing you're gonna do is I would like you to choose one of the, choose one of the larger brushes. I have a yellow, do you have an orange?
Oh, one of these.
Like this one?
One of the larger brushes that are on the table.
Let's hope that she's being reimbursed.
Okay.
No, she wasn't, she didn't want it. This is blue. This is blue for good. You got, anybody got purple?
Or green,
Yeah, we have purple.
that's okay.
You like purple?
They use green.
Okay.
It's purple.
Okay,
Here
so
comes
now that you
purple.
have,
Magenta.
It's already open.
Yeah, be careful.
She's not gonna pay
No.
okay, so the first thing that we're gonna do, we're gonna pray in color. And what I'd like you to think about as you, I'm gonna show you how to do this. And what I'd like you to think about is what your intentions are. So if you have anything on your heart, just use this time, your hands busy, making something pretty. Use this time to just talk to God. And sometimes that's hard to do very intentionally. When somebody says, pray, like, okay, well, you'll find yourself gradually moving in there. So what I want you to do is with one of the bigger brushes, I'm using this one, I want you to go ahead and wet your whole paper. It does not have to have, it doesn't have to have piles of water on it, we would just want to get the whole thing wet. And if you kind of turn it to, pick up one of the edges, you can kind of see.
Yeah.
Just kind of soaks it right in.
It does, but it's watercolor paper, so it's
Okay.
made to do this.
So should we do the cars in
Watercolor.
No, acrylic.
Okay, so the next thing we're gonna do, once you have all of your, water on there, I'm telling you, less is more when you dip into the paint. You just wanna kinda grab a little bit from the very edge. The paintbrush, because it's wet, it's going to soak up, so you don't have to dip it into there. You just barely, literally barely touch the side and it will draw it up into. All right, and you can even tap off some excess, and all you're gonna do, we're just gonna pray in color until our pages are full and we're happy with whatever, whatever we end up with. So you can tap it on the page and you'll see the color will spread. You can move it intentionally. This is, the activity is without form, so you're not going for any specific picture here. And just rinse your brush before you go into the next color. So that And if you find that you have too much paint in one area, you can add water and it will spread it out.
finish, you have to drink the water.
It's non-toxic.
See, perfect.
It's like wine.
You'll pee in color.
It's funny, I was just getting ready to say that. I'm not gonna do that.
Great fun. It's just my. Started before I did. Purple one. Some of your card starts to dry, you can re-wet it, just a little more water, re-wet it, and just helps the paint move. when you're finished putting your paint on there, you have a paper towel that's right next to you. You may have blotted off on it a little bit. But what I would like you to do, and if you need a new one, just let me know. Put it on your paper and just wipe from side to side and then lift. And then flip it over and do the same thing on the other side and then lift. Depending on how wet your card is, will depend on how much paint it lifts. Ultimately, a light background, because we're gonna put something on top of this.
I have another towel.
Mhm.
Please.
Anybody else need one? Anybody else? I'll wrap here, it over here.
Now she passes out.
Now we pass them. So you're gonna set these, once you're finished painting, you can set them off to the side. We're just gonna leave those, the paints in the middle of the table. Because I think I can let them dry and we can use them again. I think I can leave them on the plate. I'm positive I can in watercolors.
Just have to rehydrate.
Once you rehydrate them, once you add water again, you get the same thing. That's ultimately, you leave them on the plate to dry, and ultimately what you're getting is, those little trays of watercolors that you buy, the Crayola.
Yeah, but you mix
It's the same thing, this is just in liquid form. It's highly concentrated. So, do I have any volunteers for first reader? Okay, I see Lynn. Anybody else for a second reading? Robbie? Okay, so today we are, each Friday we look at the scriptures that we use on is in the lectionary on Sunday. And the reason for that is so that we just have the reiteration and the repetition so that when you get to church on Sunday, you recognize it and, it may have new meaning for you and may just add to your scripture study. So tonight we are using the gospel reading for this Sunday, which is Luke chapter 15, verses 1 through 3 and 11b through 32. And the reason there's a little skip in between those is because this is a chapter in Luke where Luke talks a lot about many parables that Jesus shared. And the break in that is 2 other parables. So this is the one that is the focus for today.
Oh, Disney.
And you're looking for a word that catches your attention in this reading.
All the tax collectors and sinners were coming near to listen to Jesus. And the Pharisees and the scribes were grumbling and saying, "This fellow welcomes sinners and eats with them." So Jesus told them this parable. There was a man who had 2 sons. The younger of them said to his father, "Father, give me the share of the property that will belong to me." So he divided his property between them. A few days later, the younger son gathered all he had and traveled to a distant country. And there he squandered his property in desolate living. When he had spent everything, a severe famine took place throughout that country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to one of the citizens of that country, who sent him to his fields to feed the pigs. He would gladly have filled himself with the pods that the pigs were eating, and no one gave him anything. But when he came to himself, he said, "How many of my father's hired hands have bread enough and to spare, but here I am, dying of hunger. I will get up and go to my father, and I will say to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Treat me like one of your hired hands.' So he set off and went to his father. But while he was still far off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion. He ran and put his arms around him and kissed him. Then the son said to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son.' But the father said to his slaves, 'Quickly, bring out a robe, the best one, and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. And get the fatted calf and kill it, and let us eat and celebrate, for this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found.' And they began to celebrate. Now his elder son was in the field, and when he came and approached the house, he heard music and dancing. He called one of the slaves and asked what was going on. He replied, 'Your brother has come, and your father has killed the fatted calf, because he got him back safe and sound.' Then he became angry and refused to go in. His father came out and began to plead with him, but he answered his father, 'Listen, for all these years I have been working like a slave for you, and I have never disobeyed your command. Yet you have never given me even a young goat so that I might celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours came back, who has devoured your property with prostitutes, you killed the fatted calf for him?' Then the father said to him, 'Son, you are always with me, and all that is mine is yours. But we had to celebrate and rejoice, because this brother of yours was dead and has come to life. He was lost and has been found.'"
Tax collectors and other notorious sinners often came to listen to Jesus teach. This made the Pharisees and teachers of religious law complain that he was associating with such sinful people, even eating with them. So Jesus told them this story. A man had 2 sons. The younger son told his father, "I want my share of your estate now before you die." So his father agreed to divide his wealth between his sons. A few days later, this younger son packed all his belongings and moved to a distant land. And there he wasted all his money in wild living. About the time his money ran out, a great famine swept over the land, and he began to starve. He persuaded a local farmer to hire him, and the man sent him into his fields to feed the pigs. The young man became so hungry that even the pods he was feeding the pigs looked good to him. But no one gave him anything. When he finally came to his senses, he said to himself, "At home, even the hired servants have food enough to spare, and here I am dying of hunger. I will go home to my father and say, 'Father, I have sinned against both heaven and you, and I am no longer worthy of being called your son. Please take me on as a hired servant.' So he returned home to his father. And while he was still a long way off, his father saw him coming. Filled with love and compassion, he ran to his son, embraced him, and kissed him. His son said to him, 'Father, I have sinned against both heaven and you, and I am no longer worthy of being called your son.' But his father said to the servants, 'Quick, bring the finest robe in the house and put it on him. Get a ring for his finger and sandals for his feet. And kill the calf we have been fattening. We must celebrate with a feast, for this son of mine was dead and has now returned to life. He was lost, but now he is found.' So the party began. Meanwhile, the older son was in the fields working. When he returned home, he heard music and dancing in the house, and he asked one of the servants what was going on. 'Your brother is back,' he was told, 'and your father has killed the fattened calf. We are celebrating because of his safe return.' The older brother was angry and wouldn't go in. His father came out and begged him, but he replied, 'All these years I've slaved for you and never once refused to do a single thing you told me to do. And in all that time you never gave me even one goat for a feast with my friends. Yet when the son of yours comes back after squandering your money on prostitutes, you celebrate by killing the fattened calf.' His father said to him, 'Look, dear son, you have always stayed by me, and everything I have is yours. We had to celebrate this happy day, for your brother was dead and has come back to life. He was lost, but now he is found.'"
What phrase or verse stood out to you? Okay, so this third one, I'm going to read to you. And this time, normally we imagine pictures and images that come in our mind, and I'm sure that even reading this the first couple of times, we have some images that we've kind of stored away, like, oh, that's a good one, or, you know, we've trained our brains to think like that when we're reading these scriptures. This time, I'd like you to
think about which of the characters in this parable do you most relate to? So I'm gonna read it. And when I'm done reading, take some time and write in your journal of which character you most relate to and why, and how that character may be playing out in one facet or another in your life. By this time, a lot of men and women of questionable reputation were hanging around Jesus, listening intently. The Pharisees and religion scholars were not pleased at all. They growled, "He takes in sinners and eats meals with them, treating them like old friends." Their grumbling triggered this story. Then he said, "There was once a man who had 2 sons. The younger said to his father, 'Father, I want right now what's coming to me.' So the father divided the property between them. It wasn't long before the younger son packed his bags and left for a distant country. There, undisciplined and dissipated, he wasted everything he had. After he had gone through all his money, there was a bad famine all through that country, and he began to feel it. He signed on with a citizen there who assigned him to his fields to slop the pigs. He was so hungry he would have eaten the corn cobs in the pig slop, but no one would give him any. That brought him to his senses. He said, 'All those farmhands working for my father sit down to 3 meals a day, and here I am starving to death? I'm going back to my father. I'll say to him, Father, I've sinned against God. I've sinned before you. I don't deserve to be called your son. Take me on as a hired hand.' He got right up and went home to his father. When he was still a long way off, his father saw him. His heart pounding, he ran out, embraced him, and kissed him. The son started his speech. 'Father, I have sinned against God. I've sinned before you. I don't deserve to be called your son ever again.' But the father wasn't listening. He was calling to the servants, 'Quick, bring a clean set of clothes and dress him. Put the family ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Then get a prize-winning heifer and roast it. We're going to feast. We're going to have a wonderful time. My son is here. Given up for dead and now alive. Given up for lost and now found.' And they began to have a wonderful time. All this time his older son was out in the field. When the day's work was done, he came in. As he approached the house, he heard music and dancing. Calling over to one of the houseboys, he asked what was going on. He told him, 'Your brother came home. Your father has ordered a feast, barbecued beef, because he has Your father has ordered a feast, barbecued beef, because he has him home safe and sound.' The older brother stomped off in an angry sulk and refused to join in. His father came out and tried to talk to him, but he wouldn't listen. The son said, 'Look how many years I've stayed here serving you, never giving you one moment of grief, but have you ever thrown a party for me and my friends? Then this son of yours, who has thrown away all your money on whores, shows up and you go all out with a feast.' His father said, 'Son, you don't understand. You're with me all the time, and everything that is mine is yours. But this is a wonderful time, and we have to celebrate. This brother of yours was dead, and he's alive. He was lost, and he's found.'"
Does anybody want to share?
About what?
Share.
Oh. Sure. So there's always.
It's funny, John and I picked the same word.
Yeah.
Yeah, hunger.
Are you hungry?
No.
Has nothing to do with food. I'll share. Where do you want to start?
What was your word?
Well, my word was hunger. And then the phrase on the second, and like I said, it has nothing to do with eating, but it was the first son began to starve. And then the tone, and you asked who we related to the best. It's a blend of the two brothers. And if you knew a little bit about my relationship with my dad, that would explain a lot of it. But there was a period of time where I was both. I was very undisciplined for half of my life, right, Shelley? Now, I'm not sure what the word dissipated means, but I'm sure I was there too. But at the same time, I was always there for not only my father, but the rest of my family. So it's a blend, light, dark sides. Anyway, I think that's about it.
So we'll go around and we'll share the word and the phrase that stood out to you. And if you would like to share who you most identify with, then share that. Fair? Is that fair? Who's next?
Which way are you gonna go?
Betsy, you're up.
My word was alive. Phrase was dead and came back to life, and came to life. And then my thought was initially, when I was thinking about who I would be, was the older son in anger at seeing my brother come back, to be quite honest. But then when I really thought about it more as I was writing, I thought, well, as the parent, I can understand the returning of a child that you hadn't seen for a while.
Just got chills.
Yeah. So, I can relate to both.
Yeah.
Not so much the traveler, because I'm not a traveler.
Well, when I hear that, what words jumped out at you or grabbed you, and it was growled and grumbled. I mean, it just came alive, and then I could actually visualize these people sitting around with their long robes on and their dirty feet and their sandals, and here comes this dude Jesus in, and they're all, it's like, oh my God, he's with those people again. Here he comes, and now he's telling us, And so I just like how in each of the readings, how that's, how they were described. So I really like that. The other thing phrase that I caught on to after I got over the grumbling, I am no longer worthy. And then the other thing was his father saw him coming, or when he was still a long way off, his father saw him. That means something.
That was the phrase that I grabbed too. Tell me.
Compassion was the word. And about the next part was his loss, but now he is found. And I kind of went on for second chances, things like that. Because like John, I didn't always take the right turns in life. So that kind of so I was thinking the brother that gets the second chance, and just thinking of my dad, he just, whatever I did, he was always there, very calm and just, accepting whatever he did wrong. So that's how it applies to me.
My two different words jumped out at me. One was compassion and the other was worthy. And then the phrase that jumped out was, and while he was still a long way off, his father saw him coming.
filled with love and compassion, he ran to his son, embraced him, and kissed him. And then I actually identified with both the father and the prodigal son. I'm a conformist. I'm not a big rule breaker, but have broken some rules in my life. I have made some wrong choices. And that's most often in the way that I treat people when they've wronged me or wronged my family. So in that way, I feel like the prodigal son, in that I turn back to God, and every single time he's like, I got you, where you been? Like, come on back, sit at the table. And, that side. And then the father, in the way that I have become very quick to forgive and very trusting. And even when I have a couple of people who I feel kind of constantly slapped in the face by, but I haven't given up. I haven't. And the part when he was still far off, I just think of like when your kids make a mistake and you see them going down the wrong path and you have to let them learn and all the things, and then you see them, they don't even see it yet, but you see them kind of making a turn to come back to where they need to be in decisions, and that's how I see that in my kids, and it's probably the stage of life that I'm in, because all of my kids are early adulthood and late teens, and so I see that often, and I have my mantra over the last few years has been, they need to know that they're loved. Doesn't matter what they did. If you're not making mistakes, you're not learning. So those mistakes are valuable, and they just need to know that they're loved. And so I very much feel like I very much identify with the father in that way. So that's all of it.
My word is celebrate. And when he finally came to his senses, it just, I've lived with a child that celebrated a lot, and he finally came to his senses.
And you survived.
We all did, thank the Lord, we all did. So I feel like the father in this story here with the, so glad. Sorry if y'all are mad, get over it. We're having a cow.
Right?
We're
Barbecue
celebrating.
beef.
We're having fried chicken.
For me, it was worthy. And he was lost, but now he's found. And I feel like the older brother, because sometimes some of our siblings have made choices, and I just feel like they get all the, and we get the,
Yeah.
and we do the best we can to do all the time, but it's like, yay, they're here. I'm like, been here 4 hours, Mom.
I hear you.
Sit right here.
I got here when you told them so to be here, and these clowns come in here,
And you're
and take over.
She's ecstatic that they're there.
Yeah, so yay, it's the, I'm like, yes. But then I realized that she has to be that way because they need that. I don't need that. I know I'm there for a reason. I'm not there just, I'm there for a reason. Don't.
Count that lid.
Okay, my word was found, and I thought everybody's gonna put that word. But he was lost, but now is found. He is found, was the phrase. And I am an only child, so I can't relate to siblings.
You're lucky.
And I also didn't really have a father, so I was raised by sort of single. I mean, my mother was married, but because that didn't happen in those days, that you got married. The character I relate with is the father, but it's because I have one of my children who, and Karen knows this, who believes that I have given way too much to her brother, who's 12 years younger. She has 2 brothers. And and she is very angry with me. And to the point where she doesn't really speak to me at all. And it's hard. It's very hard. Because we gave her property on our property and built a house, and she's in the house that's right on our property, and lives there, and
So you're literally living out the
Yeah.
story of the
Yeah.
father.
yeah, and, but evidently that wasn't enough, giving the property and the house. Anyway, I could go on forever here. And I could join her, because I know all about all of it. But I have 3 children, and I love all of them the same, and we have tried to give them everything that they needed, wanted, and, they each have different needs sometimes and different impressions, so I relate to the father.
Well, my word was hunger, and again, not for food, but hunger for, for extended faith, hunger for friendships, hunger for socializing, hunger for prayer, all of those type of things. My sentence was filled with love and compassion. He ran to his son, embraced him, and kissed him. I relate to the father as a parent. And the reason is because my son, who is not necessarily lost now, has been lost over the years, been undisciplined over the years, but has always come back, and I've always been there for him, loved him, embraced him, and supported him. And we continue to do that on a regular basis, because he went through a divorce 1.5 years ago. He's got 3 kids. And so, you just continue to love and embrace.
Well, thank you all for sharing. I realized that what I asked was a very vulnerable thing. And specifically naming who you relate with in the story, that, it can be, I know that leading up to my turn, like, am I gonna share or am I not? Am I gonna share? And, yeah.
I don't know if everybody feels that comfortable, but, with it.
Yeah,
You don't
and
want
I
to lose out there.
very much understand that. Some of the things that I heard shared and I found myself saying too. The last piece of the journaling part of this is, what do you feel God would have to say to the character that you most relate with? You don't have to write it now. It's something to think on. What do you think God would have to say, and what advice would God give, or what? How would God guide you? Being, if you were that character in the story, how do you think God? What would God's wisdom that He imparted on you be? And the last part of the art side of this is we're going to go back to our papers. And I'm going to show you, you don't have to finish it here, you can take it home. I don't want you to feel rushed, but we are at the 7:30 mark, and I know some people have
8-9.
places to go and people to see and things to do. What I passed around was the images on this big page are the same as the images on the small page. They're just larger. And the reason that I pass these around is there are different individuals in different stances, in different positions with their bodies. And there's also on here up in the corner is some different hands. So we made, essentially in our praying in color, we made a background. And so to finish this specific study, choose if you want to. One of the ways, if you are not familiar with drawing or not comfortable with drawing, the easiest way to learn to draw is to start tracing and learning the lines. And the easiest way for me to have done that way back was I started with silhouettes. I started just learning the outlines, and I started by tracing. So what I have given you is the smaller copy, depending on what your paper looks like, what your art looks like. Where can you put individuals? If there are multiple, you can put multiple on there. But ultimately, what you do is you choose where you want to put whichever one. You can choose one of these, whichever one. You put it position. This is tracing paper. It's carbon paper. So one side is shiny, the other side is dull. The shiny side goes down, and wherever you add sharp pressure, it's going to transfer that carbon that's on the paper onto your drawing. So you would put your paper down, or your carbon paper shiny side down on top of the colored side of your art paper, and then choose whichever individual that you want to add, and take the sharp end of a pencil or a pen and simply trace the outline of that figure. I'm not coloring in on the inside. I'm just going to do that with paint or marker or
Ringo.
so. Let's see. I have the woman. I traced the woman praying down here on the bottom. And you can have many. This is a good way to get started in trying to add figures to your art. And if you would like to go ahead and paint it, there should be some fine paintbrushes in the middle of the table. And I have black watercolor paint. I also have black acrylic paint as well that you can use. Or you can wait till you get home and use a Sharpie. It doesn't have to be. But the other thing is, what I would do with this in my own journaling, because I really like to remember specifically, the art that I made with this specific scripture, is I would choose the scripture that I want to that I want to remember, and I would then art journal, like we did in the very first night. I would art journal those words right on here with a black pen or a marker. So I encourage you to do that. Do you guys want paint, or do you want to do that on your own? Silhouette pages, the silhouette pages, your art, and the carbon paper are all yours to keep. Mind you, keep the, what I would do with the carbon paper, stick it in the back of your notebook where you're not using pages yet, so that it stays flat and it's not rubbing on everything else, because it will transfer. If there's a sharp pressure on the other side of it, it will transfer. Couple of announcements. Next Friday, I had originally planned to have a class. but I am not going to be here. And the reason is Clayton is graduating from AIT in Portsville, and he is going on to his first unit next week. So, I regret to inform you that I will not be hosting a class next Friday. So please don't show up here at 6:30. There won't be anybody here to do that unless you guys decide to do that on your own.
That's okay.
We'll just celebrate with
I
you from afar.
Very, very excited, very, very proud. And he graduates on Friday, so I'll be leaving on Thursday.
That's awesome.
Congratulations.
So what's AIC?
AIT, it's his training school for his specialty. And he is a 94 Mike in the Army, which is a radar repairer. So he has, since June, learned about all the different instruments and all the different radars and things. And on each radar, he had to test out of. And today, he tested out of the last one.
All right,
He texted me and he's like,
that is good.
Mom, guess what? All capital letters. I'm like, you got orders? Because he's been waiting on orders. He's like, yeah, I did. But, I'm like, well, that's great, you got orders. And he's like, I just tested out of my last radar and I'm done. All he has is next week, he has a couple of hours that he has to do practice for graduation. And he's done. And he got orders to Fort Drum, New York, so he'll only be like 8 hours away instead of 16 or 20, however many it is. I haven't driven it before. So,
That is great.
so we will pick up on the 8th.
And that's,
And
Good
there-
Friday is,
On Good Friday.
Good Friday is
Not think
service.
about that either.
So the 8th will be our last one.
The next week is Easter.
Yeah, because that'll be the Friday of Easter weekend.
Yeah, that's Good
Okay,
Friday. Now,
so then
service
We'll
is-
not have class next week, but we'll have our last class on the 8th. So the following Friday. Okay. I need to write that down so that I remember. So we have one more class together.
I'm exhausted, so.
I looked at this
And I would
over.
recommend you
Did he show
don't
the
lose your shit.
pictures?
Because
Some of them do, don't they?
Yes.
just leave the plates where they are on the table. The paintbrushes, if
Look
you
at
just
you.
kind of
Aren't you
tap them in
just
the
a
bottom, don't like slam them in the bottom, but just tap them in the
How
bottom.
can you mess up
and
with
the excess
I love it.
I'm just that kind of guy.
I know you are.
like the excess water on your paper towel. Now we have all this-
You're always looking out for the other guy.
Yeah.
John is so humble.
Okay, guys. So we'll see you later. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I will certainly try.
I got home at 4:30, ate crab cakes. We ate them at 6 o'clock.
Oh my God, yeah, here.
We got here at 6:05.
Oh my God.
I only got home and had a glass of another glass of wine.
Yeah.
Sounds like a plan.
We'll be doing the same.
Good for you. I took my mother-in-law.
Going home and having a glass of wine.